Hey, everybody. I am here with Ethan Castillo. This is a post Comic Con interview. This is longtime friend of Fanboy Planet. I mean, I've literally known you since you were a small child. So that's not meant to be reductive. That's just to say, like, why we talked at Comic Con was, well, you're 19 or 20. I met you when you were 9 or 10, 8 or 9. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Um, but you have you've had a table there for a long time. You are a tremendous artist, and your focus has been Spider-Man, so we should bring this up right now. You are part of an exhibit opening in Alhambra, California on August 5th, and it is called, I just had this up and then I don't know where it is. Let's do this one more time, Across the Spider-Verse exhibition and panel. So running through the month of August in Alhambra, all Spider-Man oriented, so no wonder they chose you. I've spoken too much, so let's start with this. From your perspective now, what got you started as a Spider-Man artist?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Derek, by the way. I'm very grateful to be here. Um, what got me started as a Spider-Man artist? I mean, I think the main thing is I've been very lucky in my life. I'm born into an amazing family. My parents are big comic book fans, so I mean, you can see all of these toys that I've accumulated ever since I was little. They're all Spider-Man. My dad was a really avid comic reader, and he wanted to do screenwriting and he wanted to draw and do all these things. So when I was born, those comics kind of came out of the backlog in the archive, and I learned to read from that, and I learned to draw from that, and I would always get in trouble at school for drawing too much and not writing enough. So if we were like describing our weekend, I would turn in an assignment because I had just drawn in a box and not written anything. And that like became a repeated offense that I would make, from ages 4 to 17. So it was pretty clear that like this was a thing that I wanted to do. And when I was, I think 7 is when my dad and I started to go to comic conventions. And they were local ones. I'm from San Jose, so we would go to WonderCon when it was down here in San Francisco. Um, and at a certain point, I asked my dad when I could draw like the artists that I was meeting. Um, and that's not a question that I think a lot of 7-year-olds were asking at the time. Uh, and my dad was taken aback and very confused, but it was something that he could tell I was like unwavering in. And it was something that like I really had a genuine curiosity for. And like I said, my parents are so supportive, and we got my art in a local comic convention called Big Wow Comic Fest in San Jose when I was 8 actually. I almost said 7, but I was 8. And yeah, since then I've just continued to do it. I've been very lucky. And this year actually I was celebrating my decade in the industry. I'm 18 now. I'm turning 19 in 9 days. But I've been exhibiting at comic conventions for 10 years.
Okay, so I think I did meet you then at the first year.
You
You
probably
were at Big Wow. You were kind of a, I don't know if you wanted to say guest of honor, but you were put on display. And I mean this. There was like a live art demo, and I have described you to many other pros that I have met as like Spider-Man in some ways seems like a character easy to draw, but what really impressed me was watching you pick your Pantone
Mm.
pens and your grasp of color at the age of 8. I've met adult artists that did not have the grasp you did. So, what do you have an explanation for that? Like, or are you were just a prodigy, you were brilliant and
No, no, no. So I mean, the biggest thing that I can say is again, I grew up with comic books. So I specifically remember the Ultimate Spider-Man series with Brian Michael Bendis and
Mark
Mark.
Bagley?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that series I grew up with, that was early 2000s. That was kind of my first uh intro to Spider-Man. I mean, I grew up with the TV shows. Spectacular Spider-Man was up while I was growing up, and that show is so so creative, and the team behind that is amazing, and they're so passionate about the character. So, like, truthfully, I was, again, the same thing over here. These toys, like, these are, I have drawings that I made when I was 7. Like, those are Ethan Castillo originals. And that's the kind of stuff that I was doing, every day. And my family has videos of me literally from birth where I'm drawing, and I'm using, I think I used to be ambidextrous, so I was drawing with my left hand in these videos, which is crazy. Um, and all these things. And I think referencing comic books and having them all around me was a really big help. All of my bookshelves are just art books and comics and graphic novel collections. And yeah, I think I was very lucky to have a good family that was able to provide a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I have two Ethan Castillo originals hanging in my office. That Peter's Spider-Man and Miles. I probably bought those when you were 13.
Yeah.
Just the square ones. So lest people think that Spider-Man is all you draw. I know I've probably irritated you over the years, and I'm sounding like I've been this really close family friend. I'm not. I just see you at conventions, and I say, "What are you doing this year?" And what has been the hardest thing in adjusting your style and knowing where your weaknesses were? You're at college now for design,
Yeah.
right? And so what were the things that you felt you had to work on the most?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the crazy thing about art is you're always a beginner. I like to say that I'm always a beginner in art. And it's funny. The first thing that came to mind was I have a friend at art school who always, actually, she said this to me like 6 months after knowing her. I met her this year, and she's an art student as well. But she said when she first met me, she was super surprised how little I knew about arts. And I love that, and I carry that with me because I think the hardest thing about art is, like, grasping how little you know. And I mean, I grew up doing comic book art, and then, I started playing video games and watching a lot more movies and television and learning about the visual development side of those things. So for like a solid 3, 4 years, I was only doing character concept art and viz dev art. Um, and now I'm a design student, like you said, it's a fine art degree. So I'm doing a lot of painting and sculpting and things that I never do, and things that are really tough, and things that I pull all-nighters on, and they're not like necessarily the most comfortable forms of art for me. But I love doing it, and all of that is super cathartic. And I think the hardest part for me has really just been learning to sit with this discomfort. I think the best art comes out of discomfort, and I'm starting to learn that as I get older. Um, but yeah, I think it's just been kind of surrendering to not knowing what I'm doing, and allowing myself to fail as much as possible.
In a very strange way. I absolutely love that response. I absolutely, because you're right. And just as your art has been to me beyond your years, the wisdom you've got there as an 18-year-old is beyond your years. I know, again, a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that never learned that lesson. So, no one who's watching this video, though, I'm sure. But, so now what are the professional goals? Like when you were a kid, it seemed like, oh yeah, you're going to draw, but that you're going to be a comic book artist. But I don't know that that's necessarily where you want to go. And yet, I love that you're still showing up at Comic Con or at cons. Let me be plural. And showing your work and selling your work, because again, why we're doing this today and not at Comic Con was because I could not get near your table when I went back. So where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and it's a question that I'm asking myself every day. I don't know. I really don't know. But again, I love Comic-Con, I love comics, I love Spider-Man. Like, I wouldn't be doing any of this if I didn't love it at all. And if I had any doubt that this was something that I was not having fun with, then it's stop. I stop. And I've taken a lot of breaks, and sometimes people need days, months, weeks, uh, even years. I know a lot of people that don't draw for years, and they come back to it and they find that passion again. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I could see myself doing concept art in the industry for a few years. I could see myself I think I love screenwriting, I love photography is a new passion of mine, filmmaking is something that I'm really, really at the beginning of my journey, but I love it to death. So I don't know, I mean, the arts is definitely something that I am keeping at the forefront of my life because I think it helps keep me centered and grounded. Where that takes me, I'm still not sure. I'm more than happy to do a bunch of random stuff and live the starving artist life. I like to travel, so I could see myself moving around a lot after school, and doing like artist in residencies and stuff like that. But truthfully, I don't know.
But I suspect you'll still be drawn back to comics. You know, everybody eventually tries, or I mean, we can't let it go. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm ridiculously old comparatively, and what a mess of a comic collection. So again, Gallery Nucleus in Alhambra. The show opens August 5th. Let's
Mhm.
do this one more time. And I'll have included some art in the post. That, yeah, as people who follow me know, I time travel with these videos. I could look forward and say predict there will be art shown over us as we talked.
I
Uh,
see.
you saw it now. You saw it
Yeah,
just now, right?
I saw it right now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's there.
If I could figure out how to make it swing across, I would. So, thank you for taking the time, and look forward to that show. I think it's lasting long enough. I'll be leaving the country for a few weeks. Uh, not for legal, I'm fine. It's not a legal thing, but I'll be leaving the country, and I'm hoping that I'll be back in time and be able to catch this whole exhibit, so I can point and go, "Hey, I know that guy." So, and looking forward to what you do next, and where I see you next. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Derek, for having me.
Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any Fanboy Planet video content. And visit fanboyplanet.com for other features, reviews, interviews, previews, and of course, listening to the Fanboy Planet podcast. And remember, use your powers for good.